Presented by Mountain Dew.
The surest sign that basketball is indeed back today, the reigning MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, has entered the building. Welcome to The Jump. I am your host, Rachel Nichols, here in our Los Angeles studio. I am joined by NBA champ, host of the All the Smoke podcast, Mr. Matt Barnes. And that guy over there, he doesn't have a podcast. He hosts his life Finals MVP, Paul Pierce. Guys, the Bucks were the first team to decide not to take the floor on Wednesday. So now as they prepare to officially return today, how do you see, Paul, the Bucks being remembered in history?
Well, you know, they're going to be remembered because they took a lot of courage for them to step to the forefront. But if you think about that day, it was discussed between Boston and Toronto about, you know, boycotting that game. But Milwaukee took the lead on this. They didn't talk to the Orlando Magic. They didn't talk to LeBron. You know, we playing if LeBron play, we don't play. They stepped to the forefront, and because of that, it was a domino effect amongst the NBA and all across the sports world. But they took the league, so I give them props for that. That took courage. You know,
Yes.
Giannis, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, has a chance to win a championship and to say, hey, we might be done with possibly the season. And it was a major effect on all of the sports world. It took a lot of courage.
No, I agree. I think obviously it'll definitely go down in history. 4 years removed from Cap taking his knee. But I think more than ever, we just kind of showed our power. We did it, like Paul said, it was a domino effect across sports, and that's what we're trying to empower the country with. We want to let you know we're powerful as athletes, you're powerful as the people. We need to get out there and vote. And when we go out there and flex our power, we all get out to the polls. We can try to change this world, but we're going to need everyone's help. It's not just the NBA's job.
I think player empowerment took hold in the NBA earlier than in some of the other sports. We're frankly just seeing guys in the NFL wake up to how much power they have.
Right.
And there's some see it, be it here, right? So then watching the NBA players not come out on the court on Wednesday, let some of the guys in the other sports see, well, you know, we could do that too. And I thought that was very moving.
And it's also not just talk. You know, now we're moving forward with action.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like Doc said, everyone's looking for the NBA for the plan. No one in the world really has a plan. There's people whose jobs 24/7
Yes.
is to find a plan, and they don't have a plan. So we have no problem putting that on our back and trying to help. But like Doc said, it's going to take all of us, not just the NBA or professional sports in general.
Yeah, this isn't on NBA players to solve racism. And by the way, it's never on victims of oppression to solve their own oppression. But obviously contributing to that fight has been so valuable. I do want to talk about how we got here to this point, being back on the court. On the one hand, you see some of the old heads, right, of the league. Chris Paul, Udonis Haslem was very key in sort of building consensus in all of this over the past 72 hours. You had LeBron James enlist Barack Obama's help in all of this. But you also had voices like the Celtics' Jaylen Brown. You had Donovan Mitchell. Do you think, Matt, there's been a little bit of a generational shift, or at least the younger guys in the league joining the older guys and saying, we take responsibility for this too?
Well, it's important because just like in basketball, we're handing off the torch. You know what I mean? So these guys are much more aware. It's just a different time. When me and Paul came in the game, it wasn't about money management, investing. It was about having fun. You know, it's a whole different atmosphere in the game now. These younger players are coming in more equipped, more attuned to not only sports, but life and business. So I think it's great when you see younger players really stepping up and having their own voice and beating their own chest, because like I said, this affects them just as much as us. And these older guys you mentioned, they're almost done. So the next generation is strong and in good hands.
There has to be a generational shift at some point. You know, it's going to be a time when LeBron is not in the league, Chris Paul is not in the league. So now it's like they're handing it down, like you said. It's like they're handing it down to the younger generation to continue to carry the torch and be loud and have a voice and use their platform. And so I'm proud because usually, you know, young guys kind of shy away from that and let the older guys, you know, take the forefront. But to see them take this forefront and on these issues is great to see. And it shows that we're going to be in good hands moving forward.
Absolutely.
And it's brave of them, right? They don't always have the endorsements piled up the way the older generation of players have. They don't have as much career earnings for them to step out and know that any team that's getting them next is going to get a guy who's vocal. That takes some courage, too, and I admire that.
And I think it's important, you know, Rachel, the other day we talked about owners aligning with players more. These brands are going to start having aligning with these players because we don't want brands that don't want us to be ourselves and speak for what's right.
And we've already seen Adidas do that with Donovan Mitchell, matching a bunch of his contributions. The idea that he went out there in his early 20s, that so many of these guys in their early 20s are taking this on is so impressive. I was not that impressive in my early 20s. I don't know what most of you were out doing. As we go forward, I do want to check in with you guys on who you think the biggest winner is now that basketball has resumed. Paul, what do you think is the win out of this?
I'm going to say everybody wins in this situation because you got to see what came out of this. You know, we got awareness from the owners, you know, from governors. You know, what came out of this? We got more voting access. You know, the owners opened up these arenas now to say, you know, we need people to go out and vote. That's a big part of all of this. That was the biggest win on all this. You know, they was able to form a coalition, the owners, the players and coaches and stuff. That was great. But immediate response was just the voting rights. And so, like, that's a big win and a step moving forward as we continue to have these conversations on down the line when the season is over, when we can go out back in our communities and meet with these different mayors, these governors. You know, this is very important right now that this is happening.
I think the winner, like Paul said, is all of us understanding that how much stronger their voice was in the bubble than individually. The bubble voice with the NBA logo behind it travels around the world. Yeah. You know, now we're looking for action. I think, you know, Milwaukee not only obviously boycott the game, but then they're on lines with people who can make powerful plays in their community. And I think that's what we need to do. We're opening up arenas for polling stations. My team and I came up with an idea, and I heard LeBron's team might be doing the same thing. But we needed, myself, Paul, former players to go out and work these polls on election day. You know, you see one of your favorite players out there working the poll for an hour or so. That's going to draw. We need everyone to get off their butt and either do an early mail-in ballot or come out to the polls.
Really early mail-in.
It's going to walk to wherever it's going. So we got to get it there. We got to get out early. But like I said, just more hands-on, more involved. Our message is strong. Some people want to hear us, some people don't, but we don't care. We're fighting for what's right.
Look, everyone in this country is allowed to have a voice, is allowed to speak. And your point about the Milwaukee Bucks is so fascinating. If you followed up on the story, it's not just that they sat for 2 or 3 hours in their locker room. They were on the phone with the lieutenant governor of Wisconsin, with some of the officials and they were informed. By the way, they're basketball players. They're not supposed to know about what legislation is going through the Wisconsin state government in any moment. But they were told, hey, we are trying to get a special session back to pass police reform, and we have not been able to mount the public pressure. The governor has been calling for this. We cannot mount the public pressure to do it. So you know what? The Milwaukee Bucks walked out of their locker room, got a piece of paper, said, we need to do this for this legislation. And guess what, guys? They are opening that special session this week.
And I think that's great, too. Just from seeing me on the show the other day, I had someone from Sacramento, from the Capitol, reach out to me talking about they have 10 new policies on the governor's desk that they're hoping to get signed. So people are watching, people are listening. And like we said, if we can lend our hand and help any way, anyhow, get a hold of us somehow, and we're going to do our part.
There you go. Well, Chris Middleton was one of the guys on that phone call. He, too, is getting ready for the game, warming up. These guys are such creatures of routine. Of course, that routine has been so disrupted these past few days, but you can see they are getting into their comfort zone. And it's not just this game on the slate today. Coming up, the Rockets and Thunders. That's been a tight series, but Houston, we may have the answer. Russell Westbrook is officially coming back. We'll discuss if he is the key to the Rockets in the next round. I do want to mention 19-year NBA veteran Cliff Robinson died on Saturday. Robinson, he was an icon. He played 1,380 games, 14th all-time, including 461 consecutive games when he was with the Trailblazers, a franchise record. Drafted 36 overall in '89, as a former UConn head coach, Jim Calhoun called him the university's first great player. He was a two-time All-Defense second-teamer, the 1993 Sixth Man of the Year. Robinson was known affectionately as Uncle Cliffy around the NBA and known for his game from range as a big man. Robinson is one of only 3 NBA players 6'10" or taller with more than 1,200 made three-pointers in his career. And guys, he was as smooth off the court as he was on it. He was a friend to everyone. Cliff Robinson was part of a revolution in basketball that has become the NBA game of today. He passed at age 53. And we remember him fondly, always.
Rest in peace. Condolences.